Hello everybody, I'm William with Western Aviation. I've been asked by a couple of people to do a pre-flight video of the Jet Ranger. So here's my attempt at it. Let me say up front that this video is intended for personal use only. It's not intended to be a replacement for your flight instructor's pre-flight. It's not intended to be a flight lesson or a pre-flight lesson. It's just for informational use. I'm going to try to cover everything. I'll use a checklist that I have developed over the years. My checklist has all the items that are found and that are required in your POH, plus some that I've added throughout the years of trial and error, just figuring what things need a little closer attention and what things don't. So at the minimum, you've got to cover all the items found in your handbook. So you can find that right in front of your POH. So anyway, I make no guarantees that this video is 100% complete or accurate. You may find errors in it. Please let me know if you do. I'll try to correct them. Or you may hear me misspeak when I'm talking about certain components. So if you don't mind overlooking that, I'll do my best to be as accurate as possible. Alright, so we'll start at the beginning in the battery compartment, which is right here. Take a look inside. We're going to take a look and make sure the battery is connected and the vent there is connected. There's another vent right back here in the back. And if you take a look, once the camera focuses there, you'll see the Hobbs meter, or the Hobbs, which has the hour meter, and right beside it is the circuit breaker for the hour meter. Some pilots choose to pull that circuit breaker sometimes to try to save them money, but I can promise you in the long run it's really not saving you any money at all. Alright, so we'll get this closed and secured. Let me find my screwdriver. Well, let me just do it with my fingers first, but I will check this later to be sure it's completely closed. And let me tell you why I'll check this later. I have failed twice to secure this access door to the battery. And what happens is when you go to flare and land, the air gets right down here at the bottom under this thing, and it'll flap this thing all the way back, and it'll hit this post between the two windows, and it will scare you to death. It'll sound like a gun has been fired inside the cockpit. So just be sure you latch this, turn those screws, and just double check. It's all I can say. Okay, the external battery door right here, we're going to secure it like so. Pitot tube cover's been removed. Pitot tube looks clear. Wire strike system on the bottom, and both landing lights look pretty good. And the wire strike system on the top looks pretty good. Moving on around. Static port, don't touch. All off your hands makes those little holes there collect debris a little easier. So let's check and make sure the door is pinned, or you may have screws in yours, bolt and nut. That's perfectly fine. There we go. Door is closed. The window's in good condition. Yes, it is. All right, let's jump up on top. Let's check the cabin roof condition. Looks good. Any antennas mounted up here, you want to check and make sure that they are secure. Wire strike system secure. Forward fairing is good to go here. Sliding on back into the hydraulic area. You can take a look up in the front of the helicopter. First, let me just back up and give you 3 or 4 areas of how the whole roof of that helicopter is situated. The very front area is the hydraulics. The middle section here is the transmission. The rear section is the engine, and the furthest part of the rear section is the oil cooler and the oil reservoir tank. So just 4 sections up there really. The fairings kind of hide it all, but it's a pretty simple system up there. So anyway, here's the hydraulic system. You get 3 of them. You want to check and make sure that they're not leaking a lot of hydraulic fluid. And the reason I say that is because they will leak some. That's by design. There's sponges up under there. Some helicopters have them, some don't, to try to prevent it from making a mess. Check those sponges. Make sure they're secure. So You want to look at your reservoir, which is right there. If you can see that little BB floating at the top of the pink fluid, that's just an indication that the reservoir is full. You fill that from the top. You can go to the very top of the helicopter, stand up there and open a little access door and fill that. What you also want to check here is this bypass. Right on the very top of it is a little button that'll pop out once the hydraulic filter has been bypassed. Alright, so check in here for debris, grass, tools, rags, remove anything that you see. Alright, so let's access door closed. Move back here to the transmission section. Here we are. All level, right there. Should be somewhere around that dot. If you need some transmission oil added, you can add it right on the top. Pilots can do that. You want to look at the mounts, that A-frame that's running right there and right down to here. You're just checking that the bolts and the nuts are secure. If it has, if it had cotter pins or whatever, preventing the nuts from turning, or if it had torque seal on there as a visual indicator, just check all that and make sure it's in good shape. Other important thing on the transmission is that spike pin right there. That's the static stop. Transmission static stop pin. Let me shine a light on it. Hopefully you guys can see it. There we go. What you want to check here is the condition. First, make sure it's there. Second, look at the sides of it and see if you can see any damage. If you take a look right there, you can see this one has a little bit of the paint chipped off of this side. That much damage is okay. We've had spike knock in this, and if you train in a Jet Ranger or similar helicopter, you're going to occasionally get it. The way it happens is abrupt movements of the controls or incorrect movement in the cyclic when you're doing auto rotations, most popularly. Hovering autos. So just be real careful and be real smooth in control so that transmission doesn't move around. But basically that pin prevents the transmission from moving laterally beyond its limits. So very important that thing's there. Alright, next thing you want to check is isolation mount. That's right there in the back. That allows the transmission to move left and right or laterally. So just check and make sure that isolation mount's there and in good condition. Look up on top. Particle separator, you want to take a look at that. I need to make a note here. This thing is not designed to be flown in snow. They make snow baffles that would go to be mounted here if you were going to fly this helicopter in snow. The reason is the snow will pack on those particle separators really easily and cause your TOT to rise and ultimately the engine to flame out. The way this particle separator works, air gets sucked into all these little tubes here, and it gets spun around and around at a real high velocity. Centrifugal force slings the dirt to the outside, or slings the debris to the outside, I should say, and all that debris gets thrown overboard out these three ports here before it goes into the engine plenum here. So just make sure that you don't have excessive grass built up here, a plastic bag, anything that can prevent the air from getting into the engine. If this thing starts becoming clogged, probably the first thing you'll notice is your TOT starting to rise. So just be aware, hovering in high grass, especially freshly cut grass, hay, that it can get up there and potentially clog particle separator. Alright, so access door closed. And the transmission fairing is secure. That's all this stuff right here. Good to go. Alright. Let's take a step back, take a look at this door, make sure it's secure, pins are there. Yes, they are. Windows in good condition. Yes, it is. Landing gear condition, flight steps. You want to make sure the step is actually an option, so make sure that it's bolted on and in good shape. Check your shoes. This particular helicopter has the full length skid shoes on it, as you can see by those bands. Standard issue helicopters are going to have the little, I think they're around 2 or 3 inch long little pads that bolt onto the bottom. maybe 6 or 8 on the side, don't really remember. But they tend to wear down quickly, especially if you're doing a lot of touchdown auto rotations like we do in this helicopter for training. Look under the helicopter. Make sure you get your little rubber mounts under the skids there, or under the skid tubes. Look at the condition of the nuts and bolts, condition of the skids. Make sure you don't see anything that's bent, damaged, scraped, dented, you know, anything like that that may need a mechanic's attention. Get all that done, and we'll move on down. All right, what we want to do next is check our fuel system. So before we check the fuel system, let's check our fuel level. Add as desired, and then we'll do our sumping of the airframe fuel filter and sumping of the main tank. So I've already added the fuel that I want, so I'm going to do the sumping of the main tank. What you want to do first is pull the circuit breakers off so you don't agitate that fuel. Turn your fuel valve off and get your battery on. We'll put our bucket right here, right up underneath where the fuel is going to come out. Let me see if I can show you with the camera where that is. It is right there. When I press the little button, you're going to see fuel pour out of the bottom of the little round pump there. So here we go. Here goes the fuel. We'll sample about 4 or 5 ounces out of it, maybe. Not even there, probably a couple ounces. Alright, that's good. Let's take a look at it. This bucket has some water in it before I started, so that's why you're going to see a little debris in there. Otherwise, it's pretty clean. Alright, so if we did find water, we'll just keep sumping it until we didn't get any water. So let's regroup. Let's put the bucket here. Now we're going to check the airframe fuel filter. So for this one, we do need the boost pumps on, and we do need the fuel valve open. Alright, so now we'll come around, jump up. Here's the airframe fuel filter. And here's where we test it. We just twist this little knob here. Fuel gets shot out, as you can see. Runs down the pan and ends up in the bucket down here. Alright, you'll notice that fuel's going to be a little dirty because the engine pan in there has got a little grease and oil on it. Alright, so we've checked that. The next thing we want to check is the bypass light, or bypass indicator. This little red button here, we can depress it, and when we do, we should get an annunciator on our annunciator panel. So let me show you that. See if I can show you the annunciator panel. And I'm going to press it, and you see that light come on there in the center of the screen. That's letting me know that the electrical connection between that sensor and the annunciator panel is working. So when you have a impeding bypass, or the filter is about to bypass, that light will come on in the cockpit and let you know that you need to land and have your fuel filter inspected. Alright, so let's power the aircraft back down, or power the battery system back down, and we'll finish the engine compartment. What you want to look for in the engine compartment is anything out of the normal. Once you do this pre-flight a couple hundred times, you'll memorize what everything's supposed to look like, and it will be really easy to look through here and see something out of place. At the minimum, you want to look at your rotor disc brake up here, and the drive shaft. It's kind of hard to see. You'll have to, move your body around, move your eyes around, get a flashlight, look in here, and just try to see what you can see. It's real compact in the front, but just do your best. Second thing you want to look at is the engine mounts themselves. These things here, make sure that they're bolted and secure. You got an engine mount underneath right there. Third thing you want to look at is all the tubes and hoses. Check for leaks or damage. Next, you want to look at your generator and your starter. It's the same part. It's a starter during the startup, and then you have to let it cool off for 1 minute. Then you turn it into the generator. But it needs to have this own air scoop here, and it grabs that from this part of the engine cowling and shoves air up into this scoop and onto the back of that starter. or generator. Thing gets really hot. It needs its own little cooling system. So just be sure that scoop's there, bolted on, no damage. Look down in your pan and try to keep this area clean. See if you see any leaks of oil or hydraulic fluid or transmission fluid or any other debris, anything down in here. Keep this area clean, then it's really easy to see if you have a leak of any kind. Check your throttle linkages. That's all this right here. Links up here to your fuel controller, which is right there. All those are fuel lines and pneumatic lines coming in and out. Just check those for leaks. Look at the torque seal. Make sure that none of those nuts are backing off. Check the exhaust clamps. Well, it's all stacked here, and the clamps. Make sure you're wire tied. We are, and or safety wired, I should say. I use the word wire tied, but it should be safety wired. Apparently, these things come off pretty easy, and when they come off in flight, they fly right back into the tail rotor. So just be sure that you check those. All right, pretty much done looking at this side of the engine. So let's secure the cowling. We can do that here. All right. Exhaust cover's been removed. All right. And we'll move on back. Look at this section of the helicopters. Looks pretty good. There's no damage here, no oil canning back here by the tail rotor. Jump up here real quick, check the engine oil level. Right here. I usually wait until it gets on the dipstick to where down to 1 quart, which means it'll hold a whole quart. It's just above the add, so next flight I'll add a quart in. And it should hold the whole thing. Most engines are going to use some oil. It's going to leak some oil. Engines can leak oil as long as they're leaking within limits. Your mechanic will know more about that. While you're here, check this little screen area. This is where air gets sucked in and blown up to cool your oil. Here's your oil cooler right here. And there's a big squirrel cage fan right up under this. So make sure the air can get in. The same place on the other side. Cowling's attached and secure. Looks pretty good. Just a little side note, if your helicopter's down for maintenance and this plate here or this plate here is removed, these are structural plates. The helicopter cannot be moved with those plates not installed. So all your mechanics, I'm sure, will know that, but just so you know, don't attempt to move the helicopter on ground wheels, ground handling, start it up, fly it, or anything without those plates on. Tail rotor, or tail boom inspection. The drive shaft cover on top should be secure. This little area here, you should be able to see all the way through. I don't know, I'm going to try with the camera here, guys, and see if I can get it lined up. There we go. You see, you can see daylight all the way through on the other side. That's exactly what you want to see. The tail boom itself should not be in contact with the fuselage. The only place it should be in contact with is through the mounts, which can be found right here, and the same on the other side. So just make sure you can look through there and see daylight. If it looks like it's been pinched at the bottom, a couple of things can cause that. Hard landings, or flying the helicopter too fast, exceeding your V&E. So just check that. Lights and horizontal stabilizer. Red is not right, so that means green has to be on the right side. Looks like it's in good condition. As you guys know, this is just an upside down wing. In forward flight, it pulls the tail down, which pushes the nose up. Makes it more comfortable for the passengers and the pilot so that you actually sit level when the helicopter's in forward flight. Alright, scanning on down through here. Taking a look at the condition of the tail boom. Again, we're looking for dents and cracks. Let me grab the ride real quick, guys. Looking for dents and cracks. The skin of the helicopter, or the tail boom, rolled up in that cylindrical shape is actually the structural strength of it. So you want to make sure that the skin is not damaged at all. If it is, I would consult a mechanic before I flew it. Right in here, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if I can get it to focus. No, it's not going to do it. There's a gearbox sight gauge right there that you can easily see with on a ladder with the naked eye. Just the camera's not focusing. This gives you a sight gauge, the level of oil that goes in the tail rotor gearbox. It's a real small amount. It's like less than half a quart or something, if I remember right. But look in your book. But it's a tiny amount. It's a sealed system, so if you need to, not a sealed system. It's not supposed to leak. Let me put it that way. So you do need to keep a check on it, and if the level is going down, you do need to have the leak investigated and fixed. So, all right. Let's take a look at the horizontal or the vertical stabilizer. Should have check the condition of your antennas. Your strobe light may be on top, and a collision light. On the very back of the helicopter, white should have for the tail section. And down here you should have your stinger. When you get into doing touchdown auto rotations, occasionally you may hit this stinger a little bit or drag it on the ground. It is there to prevent you from allowing the tail rotor to come in contact with the ground. So just a safety item. Some people say it's part of the landing system. If you forget to level back up after an auto, you'll hit that stinger and it will level the machine up for you. I don't know. Tail rotor blade, you want to check the condition of it. Look at the leading edge of the tail rotor blade. Look for dents or cracks. Look at the tip blocks here. Make sure the rivets are in good shape. Make sure the blocks are actually there. Here are the weights there and right up there for the blades. When the maintenance shop balances your helicopter, they're going to add weights to this little plate here. And you can see I got one little weight added there. Check your pitch links, check your tube, check all the nuts and bolts, make sure everything appears to be tight and in place, make sure a little rubber washer's there. That prevents the metal-to-metal contact on the yoke. And make sure you do look at the other blade too. Alright, that looks good. Same thing down this side. Dents or cracks. Red is not right, so red must be left. There she is. Again, it's just an upside down wing, pulls the tail down. It's panning down through here. In this section is your oil reservoir and your oil cooler. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. Your oil cooler is that little squirrel cage fan right up there. Hold on just one second, guys. I grab my flashlight. This may work a little better. There we go. So take a good look at the condition of that fan and make sure there's no trash or anything in there preventing it from operating efficiently. It's basically going to suck air in these side ports, blow it up through that oil cooler we looked at earlier. So while you're here, take a good look at your tail rotor drive shaft coupling, main coupling there. Follow it all the way back as far as you can. Also is your oil cooler, which is right there. That little red button on the front will pop out when the oil filter's in need of service. You can reset it once. If it pops out again, you need to take the helicopter to service before next flight. Alright, so we'll shut that up. Baggage area, always know how much baggage you got. It's real easy to get out of limits back here. I know that this thing holds 250 pounds. But you know, 4 or 5 bags of luggage or some really heavy parts right there can get you out of limits. So do a weight and balance. You know, this is pretty far aft on the helicopter, this section. So if you're flying by yourself and you barely make the minimum pilot weight of 170, then you throw 100 pounds back here and load a bunch of fuel. It's going to be really easy to get yourself out of lateral or longitudinal CG. So make sure you check that. All right, take a look in here. Other side of the engine compartment. We'll start in the back and work our way forward. You may or may not have air conditioning in your helicopter, but there's the air conditioning pump here. And it's driven by the tail rotor drive shaft. Looks like it's in good shape. Under that, or beside that's the tail rotor drive shaft there. Take a good look at it. This is the back side of the generator that you're looking at over here, and the engine scoop. Or excuse me, the air scoop for the generator. There's your governor and all your fuel lines right there. Alright, and same thing here, checking for leaks, of all your hoses and tubing. Look at your fuel lines, look at your pneumatic lines, look at your oil lines and pressure lines and all that sort of thing. That big gray box you see on the screen is your linear actuator. It's a little beep governor that some people call it when you move the little rocker switch on your collective to increase or decrease the transmission RPM. It's just taking the shaft right here and moving it forward and aft, which changes your governor and puts more or less fuel into the engine. Take a quick look at your engine anti-ice, which is right here. This system, there's a little electric motor right there that will tap the compressed section of the engine for hot air. When you squeeze air, it gets hot, so it taps the compressed section of the engine and just brings it right down through here and dumps it right into the front of the air intake. So that's a check on the pre-flight, is to turn that on, watch for a TLT increase, and then turn it off, and more importantly, watch for the TLT decrease. Having that on does rob you of a certain percentage of your power, makes your TLT go up, and of course your TLT is one of your limiting factors of how much engine power you can use. Alright, moving right along, you can take a look at, it's a little hard to see from here, but you can get yourself situated. You can see the rotor brake system. Check the condition of the disc, check the condition of the pads, and then look at your other tubing up here. All this tubing here that you see is cabin heater. So check and make sure that if it had safety wire on it before, that all the safety wire is still in place and that it's in good condition. Again, look at your pan for any debris or oil leaks. Nothing here. Check those engine mounts on this side and the engine mount on the bottom, and the exhaust cover and clamps, or excuse me, the exhaust clamp and safety wire, and of course make sure that the cover is actually removed, and it is. Alright, so let's close this section up down here. Take a look at this side transmission. This big gray box is your oil filter, transmission oil filter. You can see a little bit more of your K-Flex drive system right there on this side. This is an upgrade from standard issue bale. You may have the drive shaft that has the temperature tapes on it, so if you do, just make sure you check those temperature tapes. Take another look at your spike right there. That little finger sticking down the hole. We talked about this earlier, so we won't rehash it too much, but just check it for damage, make sure it's there. Look at your engine or transmission mounts. Make sure they're in good shape. If there's cotter pins or if there's torque seal, make sure that those nuts haven't turned. Alright, you can take a look at your oil cooler, transmission oil cooler right there. No debris, it looks like it should perform like it should. Alright, so let's close this little section up. Same thing on this side with your parking separator. There it is. Check it just like you would the other side. Check it for debris. And let's move up to the hydraulic area. Take a peek in here. Oh man, looks good. If you had grass or trash or tools or rags, if you see anything, remove it before flight, obviously. Again, you're just looking at these actuators. They should be leaking a little bit. That's by design. They shouldn't be leaking excessively. Always keep a check on your hydraulic fluid. If you notice that you're having to put a lot of fluid in there, you may be leaking excessively and need to get that checked. So, alright, bear with me just a second. Let me climb on top. Take a look down in the top of the transmission cowler. I don't know if you guys, I'm pretty sure you didn't see that, but when you do climb on top of the Jet Ranger, you cannot grab these pitch links and pull your weight up with those. If you need to grab something, you can pull your weight up on the mast. These pitch links will bend pretty easily. That mast will not. Alright, so when you're inspecting right here, this is your rotating swash plate on top and your non-rotating swash plate on the bottom. Just check the general condition of it. Look all around it. This gives you a really good view of the top of the transmission down there. Here's more pitch links here. The cyclic is controlled with this left and this right pitch rod or pitch link, and the middle one is what controls the collective. And you can trace those back all the way to the front up there to the hydraulics. So you can look there and see all 3 hydraulic cylinders and the hydraulic oil lines running to each one of the pumps and actuators. You get a really good view from here. So spend a few minutes and just, force yourself to look at every little connection and make sure that it looks normal. That we're looking at there centered is the top of the hydraulic reservoir. If you pan right around here, there she is. That little yellow cap, that's where you would add transmission fluid. Alright, so we'll move on up. Check the condition of your head. Look at your pitch horns here. And your pitch links are connected. Let's climb on up. Your static stops. Check the condition of those, and the springs are there. You want these things to come down into place. This limits the blade flapping when the rotor head is at a low speed, so it prevents the blade or the rotor head from bumping the mast during low speed, which is really easy to do. You could, if these things did not go back in place, you could go back there and grab the back of the blade and pull it down and make this helicopter bump the mast right there. And you can see this one has done that. Indication of that's just missing paint. So, be very cautious of that. You want to take a look at your blades. Dents, cracks, damage, delaminating. Look at the layers, make sure that nothing's peeling back on you. Look at your counterweights. Look at your trim tabs. While you're here, look at your grips. Put my hands on here. Check the condition. A lot of these have paint marks or torque seal to let you know if the nut's turned. Always clean your head off. You should be slinging grease out. That's normal, especially after being serviced or being greased. Always clean it off and expect to see it, sling new grease every flight. If it's not slinging grease a little bit, it may need to be, greased up. So check with your mechanic on that. He may be able to show you how to do that yourself and give you an endorsement that allows you to do it. Not sure if you need an endorsement or not, but if you do, I'm sure he could do it. Alright, so everything else looks good. When people refer to the Jesus nut on a helicopter, this is what they're talking about, this main nut that holds the rotor blades or the head onto the mast. It should have a pin right here that prevents it from turning, and that should be safety wired. So just check all that. Looks like it's in good shape here. So, alright, let's jump down. And like I said, you can spend as much time as you want to up there on the head looking down the transmission area. Take an hour or so and just really look at everything and familiarize yourself with everything. Get a maintenance manual if you don't know what things are, and or get the manual of your helicopter. Sometimes it'll have a little bit more explanation than what your flight instructor may show you. And just learn what all that stuff is. It's not that complex of a system. Like I said earlier, it's broken down into 3 or 4 sections. The hydraulic section, which is in the front, transmission section, engine section, and the oil section back there in the back. That's all that's up there on that deck. So just kind of familiarize yourself. And if you ever get a chance to go to the shop when the mechanics have all those cowlings off, I highly suggest that you do. You can learn a lot just by looking at the machine with all the cowlings removed, just what all is up there and where it's at. Okay, same thing over here. I want to take a look at the doors, windows, make sure the pins are in. Taking a look at the condition of the windows, taking a look at the condition of the landing gears, same thing as we did on the other side. Look at the steps, look at the skid shoes. Kind of overall pan back on the helicopter and make sure that you closed all your access doors and all your protective equipment, such as your pitot tube covers or your static bin or window covers, or all the protective equipment removed. Get back up here to the front of the helicopter. Make sure that access door is closed again, like I say. And of course, you guys know that you have several things that have to be on board the aircraft before you can fly. Airworthiness registration, operating limitations, which could be found in the handbook or could be placarded throughout the aircraft, and your weight and balance, which is normally found inside the operating handbook, pilot's operating handbook, or rotorcraft flight manual, whichever you may have. So, okay, guys, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I try to cover all the parts on the checklist, required checklist in the manual. I've added a few things to it. I expanded on a few items. If you have any questions, feel free to write and ask. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.